Hello everybody, it's Fufu here, and today I am going to be giving you my ultimate guide for catching the best competitive legendaries and island guardians and ultra beasts that you can possibly get. So I really hope that this helps some of you out. In Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, you are able to catch an unprecedented amount of legendaries, ultra beasts, of island guardians, and you only get one chance at catching most of them. Ultra Beasts, there are a few more, but really you only get one chance, and you want to make sure that that one that you get is as good as possible and that you can use it in battles, because otherwise it's a bit pointless having it. You want to use these guys, so you want to make sure that they're really good and that you can use them in battle. So I'm going to give you my tips on how to get the strongest possible Pokemon that you can for that purpose. So first of all, the things that you have to consider when catching your Pokemon, your Legendary, your Ultra Beast, your Island Guardian, whatever, you want to consider what ability it has. Now, for most of these, it will only have one ability, so it's not a massive deal. When you're catching Pokemon generally, they may have a number of abilities that they have access to, but with Legendaries, generally there is only one ability available, so that in this instance is not as big an issue, and you won't need to soft reset for that. In terms of their nature, that is more important. So what natures are your Pokemon will have a nature. It's basically their behavior and how they act. But what that means in terms of battling is one stat will get a slight boost and one stat will get a slight drop. And this is quite important for battling, so I will go into that more in a second. Thirdly, you need to consider about the IVs, or individual values of a Pokemon. This is a hidden value that determines how good a Pokemon's stats will be, and I'll go into those with more detail in a second too. And number 4, we've also got hidden power, which is linked to IVs. If you want a specific type of hidden power, then you need to consider that too before trying to catch your Pokemon. So I'll give you some information there. And finally, I'll talk about how to get really good Trick Room Pokemon, because they work slightly different to most other legendaries. You want to look at the IV slightly differently there, and I'll use Stack Attacker as a case study for that, a really cool new Pokemon. So if you want to get the perfect Stack Attacker, stay tuned. So let's talk a bit more about natures. I'm going to go through a quick guide about natures. If you already know what natures are and which ones you need on what kind of a set, then you can skip using the timestamps in the comment section. But for those who are interested and who don't know as much, so natures, as I said, they give one stat a slight boost and one stat will have a slight drop. There are some that don't affect any stats, but generally they're not used in competitive because that stat boost is always quite useful and it's normally worth having a stat drop elsewhere. So for example, physical attackers, they use the attack stat, not the special attack stat, so they can afford a drop in that special attack stat. So physical attackers are generally going to be adamant, so that they get a boost to their attack at the expense of their special attack, or jolly, so that they get a boost to their speed with a drop to their special attack, and that's because speed is a really important stat. In special attackers, you're going to be modest, which boosts special attack and drops your attack, and you might be timid as well, so that's boosting your speed and dropping your attack, because you're not going to be using your attack stat, you're using your special attack stat. So just to go over some mixed attackers as well, some Pokemon use both their attack and special attack stats. What do you want to drop then? Generally the special defense drops before the defense, because a lot of priority moves that can hit you will hit you on the defensive side, not the specially defensive side. So special defense normally goes first, and that means you'll get a naive nature, which boosts your speed and drops your special defense, or a naughty or rash nature, they boost your offensive stats at a cost to your special defense. For physical walls, if you want something to take all the physical hits, then you want a bold, impish, or relaxed nature. Bold is for special attackers who want to be defensive, impish is for physical attackers who want to be defensive, and relaxed is if you want to use your physical and special attack. Special walls, they're going to use calm, careful, or sassy in a similar way. Calm is for special attackers who want to take special hits, careful is for physical attackers who want to take special hits, and sassy is for especially defensive Pokemon that want to use both of their attacking stats or just want to be slow because it drops their speed. And then the final one is Trick Room attackers, or just generally slow Pokemon. They probably want to have the brave nature, which will boost their attack and drop their speed, or quiet nature, which will boost their special attack and drop their speed. So that is a quick one. If you've got any questions about that, please leave them in the comment section, and I will look, because I always look at my comment section. So now that we've gone over what natures are good where, I'm going to tell you how to get the nature you want on the Pokemon that you're trying to catch, because there are actually 24 natures in total. These are randomly assigned normally to the Pokemon that you catch, so usually you have a 1 in 24 chance of getting the specific nature that you want, but you can increase those odds to a 1 in 2 chance, that's a 50% chance, using Synchronize ability and the nature. So if you have a Pokemon with the Synchronize ability that has the same nature as the Pokemon that you want to catch, then that Pokemon has a 50% chance of also having that nature. They have to be at the top of your team, the first Pokemon in your team, Synchronized nature, and the same nature as the Pokemon you want to catch. So the easiest way to get all of these synchronized Pokemon with the different natures, I think, is to breed a ton of Abras with the Synchronize ability. You can do that pretty simply at Paniolo Ranch. Put 2 Abras in the daycare there who will have eggs. Do the spinny thing on the Tauros in the little pen, and when the woman folds her arms, you can pick up an egg from her and you can just hatch them all. Have a flame body Pokemon in your party, it makes the eggs hatch quicker. So that's just a really quick breeding guide, but you'll get a ton of Abras. They need the synchronized ability and the nature that you want your Pokemon to be. And as I said, what you want to do is save before you start the encounter with the legendary Pokemon. Put your Abra in the first slot and catch the Pokemon that you want. Check if it's got the right nature. If not, you can soft reset the game to your last save. So what you do is you press L, you press R, and you press Start or Select on your DS. It will take you back to the menu screen. You'll start up again just before you're about to battle that legendary Pokemon. Try and battle them again, and try for that nature that time. It's got a 1 in 2 chance, so you shouldn't have to do this too many times before you get the nature that you want. Next, we'll talk about IVs. As I said, these are hidden values that determine how good your Pokemon's stats are, and they range from 0 to 31. You won't be able to see these in games, but they determine how good the stats are going to be. So you can look at what stats a Pokemon has and kind of infer the IVs from that. So 31 is considered a perfect IV. Usually, a random Pokemon has a 1 in 5 chance, around a 1 in 5 chance of having 1 perfect IV, but Legendaries, Island Guardians, Ultra Beasts are guaranteed 3 perfect IVs, which is really good. That's so much higher than the normal odds. And what's even better is, for the ones that aren't perfect, you can use a bottle cap or a golden bottle cap to boost these. And you can get these in a number of ways. They're gained from Festival Plaza, and also you can collect shards in Pokemon Pelago, or you can go to the battle tree, do some battle chaining, and then collect a bottle cap later, or you can even find them fishing in a certain spot. So look up guides on bottle caps and you'll be able to boost IVs even further. So this is all to make sure that your Pokemon has the max stats that they can possibly have to be as good in battle as possible. If you want to use a Pokemon with a specific type of hidden power, then you will need to check for that. So when you catch a Pokemon, you'll need to go to Paniolo Ranch, and in the daycare there's someone who gives you the hidden power TM. That person is also able to tell you what type of hidden power a Pokemon will have. So unfortunately that will be a bit more time consuming. Save before you battle the Pokemon. If you want to use a synchronized thing as well, you'll have to do that. Catch the Pokemon, check if they've got the right nature. If they do have the right nature, go to Paniolo Ranch, check with the hidden power person about what type your Pokemon's hidden power will be. If it's the right one, that's fantastic, although there's a lot of chance that it won't be, and you'll just have to keep going, and that one might be a bit time consuming, but hidden powers are kind of tricky to get. There's no real way around that one. But when you find out when you get the one with the right hidden power, you can bottle cap again. Hidden powers are linked to IVs, so your IVs determine the type of hidden power, but you can still bottle cap these IVs up later, so that's fine. The final thing I'm going to talk to you about today is trying to catch Pokemon that you want to use in Trick Room, or Pokemon that use moves that depend on their speed stat being low, like Gyro Ball. So a really obvious example here is Stakataka, a new Ultra Beast that I absolutely love. It's got great defense, it's got a really high attack stat, and really interestingly, it's got very low speed. Its speed stat is only 13, which is really, really low. But that actually can work in its favor because it means that in Trick Room, it will be moving first most of the time, and it also has access to Gyro Ball, which is incredibly powerful coming from this guy. It normally hits its max power because it is so slow. But to ensure that it does hit that max power the most amount of times possible, you actually want the lowest speed IV possible. So we talked about IVs, and legendaries and ultra beasts are actually guaranteed 3 perfect IVs. In this case, you do not want a perfect IV, you want the minimum IV, so actually that little mechanic works against you. So you get 3 perfect IVs out of 6 stats, which means that 50% of the time your speed stat is going to be perfect. The other 50% of the time, it's a random stat between 0 and 31. So if you really want to get a stack attacker with the minimum speed IV, you might have to do quite a lot of soft resetting, and I'm doing that at the moment because I really like this guy and I want to have the best one possible. So I've got some tips and tricks to make sure that this process is as easy as possible. Stack attacker can be quite hard to catch, especially if you don't want to catch it in a beast ball just because you like the look of the other balls. But it can be hard to tell what the speed stat of the stack attacker you're facing is before catching it. There is one way though. You can work out what stack attacker's speed stat should be if it has 0 speed IVs, and you can do that by using the Smogon Pokemon calculator. So if you look, stack attacker at level 60 with 0 speed IVs has a speed stat of 20. But actually I want one with a brave nature. You probably will either want brave or sassy nature. Brave boosts its attack, reduces its speed. Sassy increases its special defense and reduces its speed. Some people might want lonely though, which reduces its defense for boosting its attack. But if you have a speed reducing nature, its speed stat will actually be 18. Now, because obviously I still want to use a synchronized Pokemon, what I want to do, having that synchronized Pokemon at the beginning of my party, I want that synchronized Pokemon to have 1 stat higher than stack attacker's minimum speed, so that I can start the battle, and if stack attacker outspeeds my Pokemon, then I know that its speed stat is actually above its minimum and I don't want to catch it, and then I can soft reset straight away without having to catch stack attacker. If my synchronizer, which is an Abra, actually goes first and moves before stack attacker, it's got 1 stat above stack attacker. That means that stack attacker only can have its minimum if it's going to be outsped, or potentially it's a speed tie, but either way you've got a stack attacker with a very, very low speed IV, which is one you want to get. So therefore, even before catching the stack attacker, you already know that it's one with the minimum speed IV that you want to catch. So that is my tip, that is my trick. I would use a Pokemon with a speed stat that is 1 higher than stack attacker's minimum, and then you can guarantee that the one you're catching is going to have a really low speed stat, it's going to move really fast in Trick Room, and it will have an insanely powerful Gyro Ball. So that one was a very complicated example. If you want to get that 0 speed IV stack attacker, then use this method, and I really hope that it works for you. But all the other legendaries generally are a lot easier because you just need to get the right nature. The only other consideration is if you want a shiny Pokemon, which obviously you're going to have to use the various shiny hunting methods available, generally wormhole hunting and things like that. It can take a long time, and shiny hunters, you have patience of saints, because generally I don't have the patience for this, especially not if I want a competitive one. I'm definitely more along the competitive side of things, so if I get a shiny Pokemon and it's not perfect competitively, it really winds me up. But that's the only other consideration, so good luck to all the shiny hunters out there. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, I will be doing more guides on my channel. I've got some more experiment videos on the way, and also some top 5s as well to look forward to. So if you like that kind of thing, consider subscribing to this channel. But that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. I've been foofootoo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.